is Asher and let's see is it worth to buy iPhone 6 in 2018. As you guys know about Apple's latest announcements of iPhone 10s, 10s Max and 10R. Technically speaking, in some ways the iPhone 6 is better than the iPhone 10R, but iPhone 10R is better device. This is not a comparison, this is pretty much should you still consider buying an iPhone 6 in the later part of 2018. Kind of brushing over these specs really quickly. It has a 4.7 inch screen. As you guys know, it came out in 2014 in September. It is almost 4 years old. At this point, like, it is clocked at kind of weird resolution 750 by 1334. It has 326 pixels per inch, which is actually the same as the iPhone 10R, believe or not. The body feels fairly good, but it is not the premium thing anymore. There is not glass on the back, but you still have the headphone jack and you still have the home button and touch ID. Its design is familiar with the iPhone 8. The main huge downside of iPhone 6 is that there is no more IP67, 68 or any 66 rating. One of the coolest thing about this phone and what made it kind of classic in a way is that it started off getting iOS 8 and right now it is upgradable to iOS 12. Apple didn't allow some features to go to iPhone 6 and it mostly had to do with its specs. I don't think that iOS 13 can be available for iPhone 6 because of its 1GB of RAM and other specs. The iPhone 6 did come with the Apple A8 chip as dual core processor clocked at 1.4 GHz and the overall performance, I would say, is not horrible. Now we have a very good version of iOS and I can tell you the performance has gone up multitasking. It gets some heat after some time of gaming, but that's perfectly fine if you are gonna spend this much money on a phone. On the announcement of iOS 12, Apple brings the Shortcuts app, which have the ability to build scriptable custom shortcuts to iOS that can be added to Siri or run from your device. Instead of improving UI, Apple worked on improving the speed and stability of the phone, which gives a little of boost to all the iPhones. There's a new feature called Screen Time on iOS 12. Screen Time basically gives the weekly based activity summary with detail how you use your iPhone. It tells you the time you spend on a specific app and it also tells which apps are sending you the most notification in the time of the day. Do Not Disturb is also getting some improvement here. Now you can set Do Not Disturb mode for your meeting or while you are at a location. It will automatically turn off as soon your event ends or you leave that place. Notifications also got a huge update. Luckily, iOS 12 makes it a bit easier to handle. One of the biggest changes in the notifications is finally we have group notifications. Now you will not see tons of notifications from an app coming on your screen. You can actually manage your notifications in Notification Center, which is called Instant Tuning. Now you don't want to have your entire feed filled up with that. It's also coming for Apple Watch, which will be much easier for small screens. With a 1GB of RAM, what you can expect from a smartphone. For this, let's see its performance in famous game called PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. There is some Android phones, those cannot run this game without a lag. And I was pretty impressed by seeing this performance of this phone in PUBG. It almost go all the way smooth and without lag. It is a major win for the GPU, which is a PowerVR quad core. There are much more stock of games you can play on this phone. You can easily play big games like Asphalt and Real Racing 3, but not like the way you play on the iPhone 10 or other phones. And let's see how it goes.
I fell where my demons dwell. My own little nightmare, I call it hell. Oh well, it's time to get back up, climbing and climbing. I'm done with this ride, is what I tell myself, so I could feel something else. Yeah, I guess I had my bad days, but it doesn't mean I lost my style. Darling, where were you when my heart was on the ground? I thought time would prove that you would stick around. I guess time stood still, a king without his crown. Now I'm breaking, you're faking, girl. You never made a sound. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired.
The temperature of the phone while you're running this game is a bit high comparing to the other apps or games. The performance of this phone is also great in multitasking. Although this is a 4-year-old phone, but it can do pretty easily its job done here. At a time, iPhone 6 was head of the league. It has the greatest camera ever, all that stuff. At this point, it's not the greatest. It has a 8 megapixel rear-facing camera. It is capable of shooting 1080p at 60 frames per second and 720p videos at 240 frames per second. And that's some awesome video resolutions for a 4-year-old phone. It does have a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera which can shoot 720p at 30 frames per second, and its front camera is not too much horrible. One cool thing about this phone is that if you don't have enough money to spend, you can always get 16GB variant which can cost you about $100 to $130. Battery life is fairly average. iOS 12 brings some improvements in it. It only had 1810 mAh battery. If you are doing some heavier tasks from the morning to the end, expect it to be somewhere around 4 to 5 hours if you're doing heavier tasks. This iPhone does support Apple Pay, so if you want to use this phone to pay your bills, you can use Apple Pay. And like I said, this phone still have headphone jack and ultimately does not have waterproofness. This is pretty much how I would break it down. If you are like in completely financial crisis and don't have enough money to spend, then okay, you could go get an iPhone 6. But if you have $50 to $60 extra, I would definitely recommend you to go and buy iPhone 6s. So for this, yes, iPhone 6 is kind of worth it if you want. That's it for today. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. I love to read your opinions and everything. Hit the like button and definitely hit that subscribe button.